You know, sometimes we say that criticisms for movies, it doesn't matter. But if you are looking at Rotten Tomatoes, there seems to be a direct connection to how much it matters. So there's this new image out. This image appeared on Imager, which is directly linked to Reddit. And it shows a correlation, a chart that shows where Rotten Tomatoes rated certain movies that had a budget of at least $100 million versus how much money they actually made at the box office. And the results are pretty stark. Let's take a look. So the orange line represents what the percentage was on the tomato meter. The blue is the projected domestic gross. We say projected because a lot of these movies are still in theaters at the moment. So it's not exactly perfect each time, but when you look at movies like The Jungle Book, the Divergent series, Finding Dory, they match very closely at the percentage, which means, well, I mean, this is for us to extrapolate. I think what it means is that people do care what the critics have to say, and that they are, you know, if a movie doesn't do well on an aggregator site like Rotten Tomatoes, they'll take it as gospel.
Yeah, and there is certainly there's exceptions, obviously, to the rule. I think Alonso, our film critic here on What the Flick, made a good point about Batman versus Superman. Like, that movie was hyped up, I would say, the best part of 16 to 18 months.
You're right, though, because that's, if you look at the chart, that's the biggest outlier.
But that's what whenever I heard the constant criticism of that movie, which, again, taking a story like that and combining two huge figures that have never on the big screen, not an animation.
Superhero movies are a different breed.
It's a different breed, and you're dealing with such a hard audience to try and please, and I'm part of that audience, and I understand it as a comic book reader and yourself as well. You got to really flirt with a balance. Like, you want to bring in the superstars, you want to bring in the bits and the bobs that make things go boom, and you want to make sure that everyone's pleased, but you got to stay true to the storyline. Whereas Batman versus Superman, I really say, when I talk about that movie, I'm saying that is a case study for perfect advertising. That movie was always going to make money no matter what. And that was through controversy with the trailers, with the leaks, with the tie-in with Suicide Squad.
Well, they're not unknown characters.
Exactly.
I mean, when you look at Guardians of the Galaxy,
yeah,
that largely was, you know, big, high ratings, good word of mouth. You know, most people don't know who Gamora is or Drax is, or at least they didn't before. Now they do. But when you look at Batman, major superhero, Superman, you know, the quintessential superhero, that's never not going to work.
Exactly. But then again, I also argued back with the people that were saying, no, they don't care, they're still making money. I think it's more than that. I think you could tell from the famous interview of Ben Affleck where he was looking distraught throughout when he was told how bad it plummeted. Guys like that, he's zoomed in on his face. He will never live that down. He's still reeling from his Daredevil catastrophe.
He's still reeling from that drunk interview about sports.
That was a great interview. So he was wanting to kind of, I would say, hit a home run with this one, but it never really did. But again, sometimes the tomato meter doesn't accurately represent something that the neutral audience is going to go and see. But more often than not, it does.
It looks like it has a pretty close tie. I mean, clearly not 100%, but it means that people do pay attention and they do care. And, you know, I said before, if you want to see a movie, go see it. You don't have to do what a critic tells you what to do. Exactly. You're your own person. But a lot of the time, you know, maybe we have more of an apathetic audience or, you know, not a super fan of Warcraft or X-Men per se. And then it just shows on the graph. So if a movie did very poorly, such as The Huntsman, Winter's War, or Gods of Egypt, that box office goes down significantly.
Plus, Gods of Egypt is the same Gerard Butler movie we've seen numerous times. I love Gerard Butler.
I think it had other problems besides Gerard Butler.
I love how Americans say it. Gerard Butler.
Jared Butler.
Jared Butler. But here's a question to you. Do you think if you didn't have the tomato meter on this and it was just the gross, I would say the profit that it made, do you think you could still differentiate which ones plummeted in Rotten Tomatoes as well? Because I think it's pretty, in this scale, it's pretty obvious. Like, I mean, we are obviously avid moviegoers. We talk about movies quite a lot.
I pay attention, though, so I don't know if I can give you an objective answer.
Yeah, maybe if you give it to a neutral audience that doesn't pay attention to much movies, it'd be harder to differentiate. But I'm saying if you took away the tomato meter, I'm pretty sure I can make a good, solid judgment as to which movies did well on Rotten Tomatoes or not.
I mean, your marketing comment makes sense. I mean, you look at some of these, and the marketing for it was weird. Like Alice Through the Looking Glass didn't have the best commercials, kind of emphasized things that maybe confused people. You know, the Huntsman, people are like, where's Snow White?
Yeah.
You know, it's a little confusing. And then ultimately, for the Huntsman at least, they're like, oh, it's before Snow White, but it really wasn't. It's just very confusing.
And I think on this as well, you're going to see that a lot of sequels just, there's certain sequels that are the exception.
Oh, we've already
like
done this video.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we talked about original movies versus sequels.
Yeah.
Zootopia came out way close to the top for best, highest grossing original movies.
And Finding Dory.
A lot of sequels didn't do well.
Yeah, Finding Dory is the exception, and I think that again,
it's Pixar.
That's
The Pixar effect, y'all.
Yes. when I love Kung Fu Panda, I thought Kung Fu Panda 2 was okay, but I just started to see it moving away. But Rotten Tomatoes actually had that kind of high on their scale, whereas it didn't make as much money. But again, Independence Day, the Divergent series, these movies, I just thought the Divergent series wasn't a sequel; it was part of the series. But it's just I feel like when you're playing that game, you're going to continue to bring out or re-bring out movies. Sometimes, more often than not, you're going to fall by the wayside, unless you're the recent Jurassic Park, which broke everything.
Yeah, well, basically, I mean, there's no one solid rule, but there are some pretty solid guidelines, or at least pretty close at least. What do you think makes the most impact on whether you see a movie or not? Is it Rotten Tomatoes? Is it what your friends say? Is it just you do what you want to do and F everyone else? Let us know below in the comments, and please like and subscribe for more.